Are we live?
We are, please. Yes, we are live, and if you can confirm that you're seeing my PowerPoint correctly.
Yes, I am.
Yep.
Alternative
Yes.
Compliance Review Committee. We're good.
Great.
All right.
Yes.
So I will begin. Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome to the October 7th Alternative Compliance Review Committee meeting. My name is Mary Kelly and I am the chair of the ACRC. So this is the script that I'll go through, so just bear with me. So today's meeting is being held as a virtual meeting in accordance with the electronic meeting statute. The requirements of notice, access, and minutes are being met through the electronic means. Public and the media are able to view this meeting on the city's Planning, Design, and Development YouTube channel. Next, I'd like to introduce our ACRC committee members. Committee members, please feel free to wave to the audience if you're sharing your camera. David Walters.
Hello.
Eric Zavarel. Paul Michael James.
Here I am.
Michael Bridges, can you say hello, please? Michael Bridges, are you out there?
Hello, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. And Padma Balusu?
Hello.
All right, thank you. We like to start each meeting with a brief overview of the role of the ACRC, as well as the meeting structure for members of the public who are in attendance. The ACRC was established to provide recommendations on requests for alternative compliance for projects in the Transit-Oriented Development, or TOD, zone district. Alternative compliance allows the implementation of alternative and innovative design practices that meet the intent of the TOD districts and do not have a significant adverse impact on surrounding development. Alternative compliance is only allowed for select standards. Each standard shall be reviewed against its specific criteria to determine that the alternative compliance meets each standard. No standard may be waived in its entirety. Our scheduled meeting time runs from 4 to 8 p.m. Committee members may request a brief recess between items and review. Each agenda item will include the following: a brief presentation of the request and recommendation from city staff, which is no more than 5 minutes, followed by a brief presentation of the request and any supporting information from the applicant, no more than 5 minutes, a public comment period for those in attendance to provide input on the item. This period will be limited to 5 minutes of discussion in support of the request and 5 minutes for discussion in opposition of the request. After the public comment period has been closed, the ACRC may request the applicant and ACRC staff members on the request. After the committee members have asked their questions, I will close the hearing for discussion and deliberation. The ACRC will then craft a recommendation for approval with modifications, or denial. Once a recommendation has been moved, I will do a roll call vote to capture each committee member's recommendation for our minutes. A final vote on the recommendation by the ACRC will close the meeting. Written comments on this request will be accepted after the meeting until 11:59 p.m. on October 8th. These comments should be sent to our staff liaison at Kirsty, KIRSTY.Sanchez, SANCHEZ, at charlottenc.gov. Comments should be limited to 375 words and will be provided to the Planning, Design, and Development Director before a decision is made on the request. Staff will forward any written comments along with the ACRC and staff recommendations to the Planning, Design, and Development PD&D Director within 5 business days of the meeting. The PD&D Director will make the final decision on the request using the recommendation provided by staff and the ACRC. If alternative compliance is denied by the PD&D Director, nothing precludes the applicant from pursuing alternative options through filing an appeal with the Zoning Board of Adjustment, rezoning to TOD or submitting a new request to the alternative compliance. Before we get started, does anyone from the committee need to recuse themselves from any of the items on today's agenda? And we have one agenda item today. All right, hearing or seeing none, I'll move on. We do have one request for alternative compliance or agenda. This request is the ACRC-2021-00004 and is for the alternative compliance from section 15.2.1.c, minimum building height. I'll invite staff to present the application and staff recommendations on this request. You have 5 minutes to do so. So Kirsty, if you would please.
Great, thank you, Mary. So as Mary said, today we have a request for alternative compliance for the property at 2127 Hawkins Street. So the subject property is zoned Transit Urban Center, or TODUC, and the applicant is proposing a one-story restaurant at the rear of the site. So here we have a zoning map showing the site highlighted in purple. The surrounding properties are a mix of different TOD districts as well as our UMUD district, and they include a mix of commercial uses and retail uses, or residential uses. If we could go to the next slide. So here I have some screenshots of the surrounding properties along Hawkins Street. So if you look at that first image, the proposed restaurant will be located behind the existing one-story building that's in the center of that image. And then the second image is of the sites that are across the street, across Hawkins Street. If you go to the next slide. So here I just have additional screenshots showing the site, and you can see where the building is going to be going. And then I also included an image of the property that's across the light rail. You go to the next one. So the applicant is requesting alternative compliance from section 15.2.1.c, which requires a minimum building height of 40 feet for new projects in our TODUC district. The applicant is proposing a one-story, 17-foot tall building, and they are including increased height of ground floor transparency and an angled canopy that provides visual interest and acts as a roofline shadowing element. If we go to the next slide, please. So here we have a site plan showing the proposed site. Again, this is the restaurant's proposed at the rear of the site along the rail trail. It includes improvements to the rail trail, which includes a 12-foot mixed-use path and 4-foot planting strip on either side of the path. They'll also be providing outdoor seating in this area to serve the restaurant. So if we could go to the next slide. So here we have the building elevation for the light rail frontage. Again, the TODUC standards require a minimum building height of 40 feet, and the applicant is proposing a minimum building height of 17 feet, but they are providing increased transparency as well as this angled canopy that acts as a roofline shadowing element. You go to the next one. So the next couple slides here show different renderings of the building. So here we have one. We want to go to the next slide. Again, same thing, just giving you an idea of what it'll look like. And so then this slide here shows, again, the existing one-story building on the site and how the building will be facing the light rail frontage. So if we could go to the next slide, please. So here we have the criteria that we use when we evaluate requests for alternative compliance when it comes to minimum building height standards. So we're asking, does the design maintain compatibility with adjacent development surrounding land uses? Does it maintain pedestrian safety and walkability? And then when alternative compliance is applied for minimum building height, is the structure designed with additional elements such as a parapet wall, increased height of ground floor transparency, roofline shadowing elements, or other techniques to maintain compatibility with the height of surrounding structures? So after reviewing this request, staff feels that the application meets the review criteria and we recommend approval. So that's all I have at this time. So I'll turn it back to you, Mary.
Great, thank you so much, Kirsty. All right, I'd like to move on to the next section. Next, I'll invite the applicant to present any additional information on the request. You have up to 5 minutes to do so.
I guess we better speak, Robbie.
Yeah,
We,
that would be
we
good.
thank you. Thank everyone for considering this request, and we're just trying to fit a tiny little building in an unused sort of hidden space there, and we really don't even need it to be 17 feet tall, but we're trying to meet all the requirements. And my guess is, yeah, that's a great picture, whoever did that. My guess is that when the ordinance was written, it probably didn't envision a tiny piece of property like this. And anyway, we only need to build a one-story building, so that's it in a nutshell. And we're going to do everything we can to have really no parking, pedestrian, access off the rail trail and the connectivity and all of those great concepts. So thank you very much for taking a look at this.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add is that, I think that this, considering the size of the property, we think that this would be an add to the community. See this.
I'm sorry.
Y'all hear
speaking?
Robbie?
Robbie, I cannot hear you. I apologize.
Speak up.
Could you speak louder, please?
Can you hear me now?
Much better, thank you.
Okay, I apologize. All I would add to it is that, as Paul mentioned, this is a extremely narrow wedge-shaped property that there's not much you can do with it unless someone acquires a property and kind of adds it to something else, which we've got this massive building on the right. There's another massive building on the left. And we believe that this building and restaurant will add to the pedestrian, what the intent of the code is on this rail trail.
Anything else, Robbie? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's it. I think that covers it.
All right, great. Thank you. Thank you for your comments, both. All right, so we did not, moving on then, we did not receive any requests from the public to speak on this matter. So now we'll move on and allow the ACRC to ask staff or the applicant any follow-up questions on the request. Again, I'd like to ask for the discussion to be kept relevant to the design standards related to this request and alternative proposed by the client. Do any of our members have any questions they'd like to ask?
Yeah.
Padma?
Yeah. Hey, so it looks good. Looks like the entryway is from the sidewalk of the railroad, right? So that's the entry based on
That's correct.
Okay. And where people that are not walking from the station, where would they park, and what's the walkway for the cars, like people driving in cars?
Well, say that again. I can barely hear you.
Yeah, so I mean, I can see a path from the train station, but what about people that are driving in? Where would they be parking? Is there a walkway?
Yeah, if you look on the site plan, behind the building, there are 4 parking spots. But we're encouraging those to be primarily for the Uber Eats delivery type people. We're really not offering much parking at all for customers. It's carry out only. So nobody comes in the building except to use the restroom if they need to.
And this is Kirsty. Just to clarify, this use does not require any parking to be provided. So no parking is required for the restaurant use.
We're trying to go with the pedestrian friendly concept.
Other questions from the committee? Up, raise your hand, wave.
I think it's very clear. I don't have any questions.
Right.
I second David's comment.
Okay, thank you.
I'll third it.
We're all joining in. Okay, All right, then let's move on. Thank you. That closes our public comment period as well as our discussion from a committee standpoint. So at this time, I'll invite recommendations from the ACRC. And once we have a motion and a second, I will hold a roll call vote. So do we have a recommendation from the ACRC?
I would recommend approval. I've been looking forward to approving this, so I'd love to get on with it.
I second.
I third.
Was that, I'm sorry, I was looking down. So was that Michael? Michael
Yeah.
James,
I
second?
love this
Thank you,
project.
Michael.
I run this trail, so I have personal investment and interest in a place like this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I walk or
Congrats,
drive
Lynn.
past this? I walk or drive past this site at least twice a day. So I think this will be, in time, it could be another, sort of thirsty beaver situation because, it's a tiny building between two tall buildings, which is basically how this part of Southend is developing. And I think that's just fine.
I was thinking the same thing about the Thirsty Beaver. Seeing that Mick Jagger picture, was it last week?
Yeah.
Or was it the Thirsty Beaver? I was thinking the exact same thing about the spot.
So we can get a picture of you two in front of Paul's restaurant then?
Absolutely.
All right, sounds good. I'll take it as I'm flying by on my bike. All right, so we do have a motion. We have a recommended by David Walters for approval, and then we have a second for approval by Michael Paul James. So, what I'd like to do now is hold a roll call vote to capture everyone's recommendations. So, Eric, Zeverall, approve with modifications, or deny?
I approve.
Thank you. Padma Balusu,
I approve.
approve? Did you say, ma'am?
Yes, I approve. Yes.
Thank you. And Michael Paul James for record.
Approve.
Thank you. Michael Bridges,
Denied.
you deny? Did I hear that correctly, sir?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, David Walters,
Approve.
and then myself, I also approve. So we have a motion for approval, moved by 5 approves and 1 deny. So thank you all for the vote. The ACR's recommendation on this request is to approve, is approval. Again, so before I close, are there any other questions or comments regarding our recommendation? If not, that closes our meeting for today. As I previously mentioned, written comments on this request will be accepted until 11:59 p.m. on October 8th. These comments should be sent to our staff liaison at Kirsty Sanchez at charlottenc.gov. Comments, again, should be limited to 375 words. Staff will forward any written comments along with the ACRC and staff recommendations to the Planning, Design, and Development, our PD&D director. The director will make the final decision on this request. Thank you all for joining our virtual meeting and have a great October, everyone. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.